Just think of it as the rough draft of the podcast world. This is the Newbie Writers Podcast with your hosts, Damien Boach and Catherine Bramkamp.
Hey, this is episode 179, and Catherine's back, albeit...
Catherine is back,
partially.
almost in one piece.
So, come on, out with it, so that way people know what I'm going to be ribbing you about for the rest of this show. What did you do?
I was in my third day of a 2-week vacation, a little over 2 weeks actually. My husband said, come on, let's bicycle, we'll do something active. And so we bicycled very low-key, 3-mile trail from, we were on a riverboat cruise, so from the riverboat to Monet's Garden in Guernsey, which was awesome. On the way back, it started to rain. Not so awesome. I don't like bicycling in the rain. So I'm bicycling, and I stop. Andrew stops to take a picture, and I stop behind him, and I go to get off my bike, and I'm used to throwing my leg around the back of a bicycle because that's how I've always done it, and it caught on a big basket on the back of the bicycle, and I fell completely off of it, rolled down a little hill, and slammed my hand down on the cement to stop myself, and sprained my wrist. So I went through the rest of the trip just sort of putting ice on my wrist, and popping ibuprofen and having wine with lunch, having wine with dinner. That really worked. So I just sort of had the quote sprained wrist. I get home. I finally go to the doctor on Tuesday, and they say, "Oh, it's not sprained. You broke it in 4 places." Oh, good. So I have this fractured wrist, and now I've got a cast, and it's serious. But let me tell you, for 2 weeks I was sort of goofing, kind of going along. Well, it hurt, but I think that, and I'm going to, in fact, I did an article in my newsletter about denial is a wonderful thing. I did not interrupt my vacation one little bit.
Right. Well, that just completely destroys the image I had of how you did it, so...
Oh, good. I don't know if that's good or bad, but probably good.
I don't know, but I had an image of you going forward over the handlebars because you're flying down a hill in France going, "Look, I'm cycling!" But, yeah.
Well, it beats tripping in a parking lot in Walmart, so...
Oh, my God.
At least it's a little more romantic to fall in France. And then I was distracted the whole time, so I was pretty happy about that.
Andrew didn't laugh. It's unacceptable.
No, Andrew did not laugh. He picked me up, brushed me off, and said, "You're going to have to ride that bike back to the boat."
Really?
So I had to ride with the swollen hand. I could just see it was swelling as I was riding the bike. I thought, oh, this isn't good.
Well, he gains a couple of points. You can see I'm not very, what's the term? Compassionate.
Compassionate, sympathetic.
If Sharon did that, it'd be just like, ha! Sucks for you. We have a guest on.
So anyway, that's my story for a while.
Yes. Oh, well. Going to be doing a lot of underhanded jokes today. Now.
There you go.
Oh,
there you...
It's going to be a long one. Now we've got a guest on who has stayed up because it's the middle of the night where she is, so it makes me feel bad. We've got Anne-Marie Miles on. Good evening, good morning, and good night.
Good morning, Damien. Good afternoon, and good night. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. I have indeed stayed up till let me see, where are we? It is just after midnight. Yeah. So if I fall asleep in the middle of the conversation, just shout at me or say the word chocolate, and that tends to wake me up. That'll get my attention.
Right up.
Yeah.
and I asked Anne-Marie here because we both are contributors to Beth Brawney's Writers Fun Zone, and I liked very much one of Anne-Marie's blogs about slow writing, about doing slow writing and writing in journals with handwriting instead of typing, and it's very relevant because that's what I ended up doing for 2 weeks when I was traveling, was just writing with my good hand. Fortunately, it's my right hand. And so I wanted to talk to you more about that idea because I thought you had some interesting things to say about it.
Sure, thank you. I mean, the article quite often, and you're probably the same. The articles, they don't always start. They don't always end up where they started. And what I was thinking about at the beginning was this whole concept of writing for people who scan. Because particularly people who read on the internet. So many people now are reading on their e-readers, but it's not about reading books from electronic devices. It's about people who read from the internet, people who read blog posts and tend to read news articles and stuff online. And there's quite a lot of people like the likes of Jeff Goins and stuff, and they talk a lot about the fact that really people who read from the screen are scanners. So that's what I was kind of thinking about, was an article about writing for people who scan and skim on the internet, and how we can grab the attention of people. But as I thought about it some more, because it started out as an article about other people, about readers, but it kind of turned into more thoughts about what are the benefits of it as from the writer's perspective. Okay. More the inner, well, I suppose as much the inner thing as the outer thing. So like I say, I started out talking about, kind of the earlier draft of the article, talking about scanners and stuff. But I think one of the big issues we face, like as bloggers and writers, is that there's just so many people out there, and I'd be the first person to put my hand up and say there's so many people out there who are so much better at this stuff than I am. They're just so much better at being kind of consistent in their blogging and having a fresh message on a regular basis and all of that stuff. And what I was trying to do is say, well, how can we find a way to catch our little bit of the audience? How can we do the best that we can do to catch people's attention? But every time I kept trying to go down that road of how do we get readers, it just kept turning itself back on the benefits of this for the writer, and the whole concept of slowing down. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And just slowing, and like you're saying, Catherine, that you've been kind of forced into slowing down. You're literally handwriting everything. Yeah. And maybe I can just turn the question back on you just for a minute or two. Have you found it a different experience? Have you found it that it's changed what you write and the way you write?
That's a good question. And this goes to your first idea about skimming and writing for the internet versus writing for different, reading in different formats. So I was writing my first draft for a newsletter article, and I hand wrote it, and I had all sorts of things to say, and just sort of let it flow, like I keep telling people to do. I actually do it myself. And then when I went to, okay, now here's two challenges. So when I went to transpose it, translate it into, it has to go into the computer in order to get to the newsletter, etc. Sure. I found myself throwing out some of the more verbose comments. That could either have been because I'm typing this with one hand and it's really annoying, or I know that someone reading the newsletter is going to want to have that material shortened. So I think it's not interesting, but there's two. So I ended up doing like that two-pronged process that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole concept of, and this is a whole other conversation, but the idea of, I think it's assigned to Ernest Hemingway, the concept of write drunk and edit sober, and that whole thing of free writing, and get the words out of your head and onto the page, and once they're on the page, we can do something with them. And that was probably the first thing that was ever taught to me by the first kind of writing workshop I ever went to in Dublin in 2012 was, she was saying, don't worry about what it is and how good it is. Get it out of your head and onto the page. And that kind of tumbling of words that is fixable and editable and shapeable and moldable, once it's down there on the page. And one of my problems is that if I'm handwriting, I'm not moving fast enough for my brain, because I type a lot faster than I handwrite, and also when I type stuff, it's usually far more legible than when I've written it. I'm forced to slow down if I'm handwriting, if I want to have any chance at all of understanding it. When I go back to read it a second time. But that's why I think the slow writing thing is much more for us as writers. I think the slow writing benefits us more because it forces us to pace, to let our thoughts kind of catch up with the the madness and because one of the things I said in the article is this phrase I heard a few years ago that stuck with me was, we live in a Pierce and Ding age. And I was like, what do you mean Pierce and Ding? And they said, well, you got a microwave meal and you jab it with a fork. You put it in and ding, after 5 minutes it's ready. And that's the age we live in. It's immediate. I want everything now. I don't want slow internet, and I don't want to wait 28 days for anything. I don't want to wait 28 minutes for anything,
Yeah, 28 seconds.
We live in, and just that kind of frantic lifestyle. I mean, most writers are working and they've got families and houses, and that, so we're all on the run, and handwriting stuff just forces us to stop. It just forces us to stop and take our time and let our minds kind of catch up, and just settle a little bit. So I almost think it's like a separate, there's two different things going on. There is the let the words tumble out onto the page and we'll fix them later. Mm-hmm. But there's also that discipline of just slow down for a minute and just see what's in there. See actually what comes out at a slower pace. And I mean, it's something that's it's interesting. Just kind of on a side note, it's something that's used in counselling as well. I was told that if you're in some sort of counselling or if you're in some sort of therapy or whatever, and they do ask you to keep a journal, they never ever want you to type it, because it's editable too easily, and even if you draw a line through something, it's still there. And just the whole concept of how much better it is for our mindfulness and for our kind of inner health to handwrite stuff. It's actually better for us on a mental. And now, I mean, I can't quote any journals, any peer-reviewed journals on that, but I have heard it kind of from a few places that it's actually just better for us to slow it down.
See, I must have missed that email because I have to read everything. It takes forever. I can't skim read. I've had friends who I smashed this book out in an afternoon. I'm like, really? That would take me about 3 months to read.
Yeah. I like that though. You're one of my beta readers, so I like that you take your time.
Yes,
I think one of the things that I've read, and I can't cite the article either, but that and Natalie Goldberg has said this, a number of writers have said this, that there is a big difference between handwriting something and typing, because the handwriting involves more of your body, and I think that's probably why therapists insist that you handwrite, because it's a whole body experience, whereas you can get a little more disconnected if you're banging away on a typewriter, which is kind of like the microwave of writing implements. And doing the slow writing would be like, just talking, it's kind of like doing slow food or slow life, where you just have to do something quote old-fashioned, because that's more what we're like. Now that said, I am sure that writers like Louisa May Alcott, and not Hemingway because he was writing short things, but Jane Austen would have been very happy with a tiny computer, because their arms ached, their hands ached, they had arthritis in their hands because they wrote so much. So they would not have.
And certainly, Jane Austen was frustrated. She was frustrated because she thought so much faster than she could write, and she was frustrated by her own handwriting a lot of times.
Right, and Louisa May Alcott was trying to put him. She was trying to write as fast as she could, and and she could only go as fast as her handwriting. So I thought, wow, if we could have pulled, given her a little Mac Air, that would have been awesome.
It's interesting what you said about that article. Maybe I read the same article, but in the first draft of this article that ended up on Writers' Fun Zone, in my early draft of it, I did have a quote from an article that talked about the different, like you say, the different parts of the brain that handwriting uses. It involves more of the senses, I think, is what the article said.
Oh, okay.
Than typing. So, and it involves more than one part of the brain. Seemingly, typing only involves like maybe 2 different elements of your brain power, but handwriting involves like 5 or something.
Yeah.
And it was in, I'd have to go back and dig out the early draft of the article, but just that handwriting actually, like, so it may even be the same article that you have just mentioned there, that it just uses more.
Yeah.
And different parts of the brain.
Things. Yeah, and some writers are completely devoted to the handwriting, and
yes, yeah.
Then it comes, and you write it all out. I think journals are one thing, because then you just, like for my travel journal, I have it all down. I've got everything in it, and it's just a complete thing. It's itself. But if you have to transpose things into your computer, then you have your handwriting piece, and then you do that editing. That's the first editing round, and that's what I also tell my clients. Is that they say, "Well, can I write it by hand?" I said, "Absolutely. Just know that when it goes into the computer, you've done your first round of editing. Maybe that's not bad."
Well, how would it be perceived if you had handwritten something, and then you post it to a publisher? No.
You can't.
There you go.
Sorry.
No. I don't even think they'd let you scan it in and send it to them. No, I think it's all electronic.
Times New Roman 12.5. That's
double spaced, one-sided, A4. Yeah.
There's
most publishers. You can't write it on the back of a restaurant napkin anymore. Those days are gone.
No,
we've got
definitely not. You can do
up.
that if you need to do a startup in Silicon Valley. They still accept napkins, and 3 million. That's the last place I know.
I'm gonna ask a publisher. I think is it next week or the week after? And say, hey, I'm gonna post you something.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Sorry, you're going to what? Sorry, what was it? You're going to what? Sorry, I don't understand.
I'm not going to know what you're talking about.
I don't own a computer. That actually wouldn't work because we're doing it by Skype.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to fall for that. You said the word Google a number of times earlier on this evening, so I just don't think that's.
I've only heard about this Google thing. Is it like the Facebook? Yeah.
What is this thing we speak of?
Yeah. This Google that we speak of.
Oh, I mean, sometimes I wish I could just throw the laptop, in the trash. Sometimes I wish I could do that. Other times I think I could never live without it. I mean, I've got, like most writers, I'm sure I've got a notebook in every bag and a notebook in every room. But at the end of the day, the real work for me gets done on in the laptop, because I have to email Beth with her article and email other places with their stuff yeah, so I think that's where the real work is done. But just getting back to the article, I think even though what I was saying about it being an inner thing, I was still trying to work at giving some kind of productive kind of advice if you're writing for if you're writing for internet readers, you're writing for screen readers, and it's keeping it short and snappy. But again, this is 3 or 4 versions later. When it's always refining. In fact, I know I'm diverting again, but I went to a great writing workshop. It's a year ago now, and she got us all to write a story, a 100-word story, very quickly. Okay. And then she handed us out postcards, and she said the story had to be in the first person. And she said, "Okay, now I want you to send your best friend a postcard telling them that story, but you've literally only the space on the postcard."
Oh, that's interesting.
And tell them the story on the postcard. So, and you'd only have the postcard because you actually had to put a false name and address on the right-hand side. And then, so we did that. And she said, "Okay, now I want you to text your friend the story."
Okay.
You have 140 characters. And what she was trying to do was get us to understand the concept of getting down to the kernel of the story.
Right.
What is the point? What is the 140 character point of a story? And what she was saying was, if you don't know that, if you can't look at your story and say, this is what my story is about, this sentence sums up my story. And although she was talking about novel writing and short story writing, I actually felt I brought it back and started putting it into blog post writing and article writing, that I should be able to say this. Here's the bloody blur bit. But what is the point? What's my point? Because as you've already guessed, I could talk quite happily, and I could just ramble on to the end of the day, no problem to me. But what am I trying to say? What is the point I'm trying to make? And it's an exercise that I've done regularly since I did that workshop. Say it like that again, throwing it all out on the page, get it down to 100 words. See, can you get it down to a text message?
But doesn't that
can you get it down to a tweet?
Doesn't that increase the chances of having rubbish in there, like the tweet? So like in Catherine's situation, her tweet would be, was on holiday, fell off bike, broke wrist, sad face.
But that's what happened.
And I think that goes back to the deterioration of literature in general, right?
Yeah. I mean, you see, I suppose what we don't want to do is end up being tweeters, because most tweets are full of rubbish anyway. The point of this is, can you boil your story down to this is what happened? And what she was saying was, if you can't do that with your own story in a couple of sentences, okay, if it's a novel, maybe it'll be a short paragraph, but if you need to be able to do that yourself.
Yeah.
And say, this is the core point of what I'm trying to say. And I find it a helpful tool.
How would you get the Lord of the Rings into a tweet? Small person.
Say that again.
How would you get the Lord of the Rings into a tweet? It'd be small person, ring, old man.
Yeah. That's good. That's an excellent question.
That sounds
That's
creepy.
a whole other podcast.
And there's websites for that where they take great novels and they reduce them down to tweets.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, that's really
good.
So someone's already thought of it. Sorry, Damien.
Sorry, Damien. Someone's already thought about it.
There goes my new career.
There goes your niche.
Hate that.
If anyone else has got any other rubbish ideas, send them my way. I'll look this up now.
Dear.
So what would it be called? I can't believe I'm typing this, but mind yours. Novels to tweets.
I don't know. I don't remember. I just came across it, and like anything, because I was online, I was not going to spend a lot of time on it. I mean, this is just an interesting thing if you think it through. I need to, when I'm culling through newsletters, or I'm culling through information, or Flipboard, or whatever it is, we've gotten to the point where I either need Huffington Post feeds. All I need is the headline. That's it. I don't even open up the email. Just there's the headline. Then from there, if there's if there's a photo, yes, we know about photos and having photos attached to everything. But then the next thing is, what's that opening couple of sentences? And if I'm intrigued, I'll read it more. But if I'm intrigued, even that I don't have the time, and I don't feel like I have the time to just linger on some of these things that are essentially just fun.
Yeah.
I found the website.
Okay.
So, Lord of the Rings, and that was all right. Lolita. So they've condensed that down to dirty old pervert molest 12-year-old, then expect sympathy.
Oh man.
Truth hurts.
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye.
Okay.
Young white dude complains.
Yeah. Should have joined up with the soccer team. Yeah, we have.
War and Peace. France invades Russia, and sorry I fell asleep.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's a
Brilliant.
good one. Oh,
That's good.
The Bible. God makes world, God makes people, gets angry with them and makes them follow rules. I like that one too.
That's good.
Yeah, there's loads here. I mean, they did the Lord of the Rings saying little hairy people, wizard, dwarves, elves take a really time to triumph. It's true.
Take a what?
Take a really long time to triumph.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So yes, anyway.
Just Catherine, what you were saying about reading the opening line in the first few sentences. I used to work in fundraising, and I don't know whether you get fundraising stuff through your letterbox, but there will most often be a PS on a fundraising letter with the ask repeated, and it's mainly because people read the first 3 lines, and then whether the letter is 1 page or 4 pages long, they'll skip to the bottom.
Yeah.
So there'll always be a PS in a fundraising letter because people know that basically you haven't really read it. And so there was a recommendation of putting PSs in blog posts, and I'm thinking, well, if I can't even keep them for 500 words, then I should get out of the business, really. So I don't put PSs in blog posts.
What made you get into
500
blogging?
words is a lot of words.
Yeah.
What made you get into blogging? Because I see on your website you started in 2007. What was that crucial moment where you went, I'm going to do it?
Yeah, it was. I'd heard about blogging, and I thought, oh, that's a good idea. And what I thought was, at the time, that you put stuff on. Now, gosh, my blogs are shamefully unattended at the moment because I started a new job and forgot I was a writer for a few weeks, but I'll fix that. But anyway, way back when, I thought the idea of blogs was that you put something on the internet and that people engaged with it, and I think originally that was the point. But people only engaged with it if they knew you were there and they knew who you were and you were talking about something interesting. So I kind of misjudged what it was about, and I asked a question, and I thought, and I waited for an answer, and the answer didn't come. So I wrote what I thought was the answer.
That works.
And that was basically my first blog post. And then I asked another question, and then actually, once I got into it regularly, people did start engaging with it. But that was really because I misunderstood what blogging was, and that's why I got into it, because I didn't know what
you didn't know what you were doing, you launched it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was something else, and then I got kind of fairly addicted very quickly. So yeah.
Did you ever put anything controversial up, just in the hope that someone would, respond?
Oh no, I really don't like controversy at all. I am a Christian, so I have discussed kind of Christian stuff on the blog, which has not always gone down well. My kind of opinion on certain issues to do with faith and family and all stuff like that. And I don't get into arguments. I mean, you'll see if you were to look at my Christian blog, it's not terribly controversial. I have ranted a couple of times about certain issues, but in general, I don't invite controversy. In fact, I'm a bit of a chicken, really. I shy away from it. What I try to do is say, well, here's how I feel about this. And then I duck, I tend not to. I'm probably more controversial when it comes to talking about writing. In fact, I'm probably braver and willing to be more controversial when it comes to talking about writing than I am about the faith issue. And it was the faith blog that started a long time before the writing blog.
See, you talk about condensing things down into, a postcard into a tweet. That's how my brain works when it comes to, I don't know, controversy. So if I am on Twitter or I'm on Google+, and I see a politician, in my brain it's a long-winded question, and when it comes out, it's, you are a dickhead.
Yeah. And that's
nice.
the other side of Twitter, though, isn't it? It is condensing these kind of moral and political and religious and whatever issues, social issues, into 140 characters. And it riles people, causes arguments, and I think that's the negative side of social media, is that it does cause an awful lot of unnecessary, kind of strife and arguments and stuff. As powerful and fabulous as it is,
it's wonderful.
It does do that.
I feel like
it condenses big, important issues into stuff that you could stitch on a pillow.
Speaking of issues, who's Lizzie Redmond?
Lizzie Redmond. Lizzie, have you guys heard of the A to Z blog challenge? Okay.
Yes.
It happens every April, and you blog the alphabet basically. You take Sundays off, and so that's 26 days, and every day you blog the alphabet. So you start on the 1st of April with A, and the 2nd of April is B, and blah blah blah. And I did the A to Z challenge a few times, and one year I decided that I would do it fiction. I was just starting to write fiction, so I started to write about this little girl.
Okay.
And I had a few stories about her. And basically, she was me originally, in her original form. It was just basically memories that I kind of fictionalized, memoir and stuff. And I did an exercise at a workshop where we had to take a story and change it from the third person into the first person. So I said, I'll dig out one of my Lizzie stories and put it into the first person. And when I put it into the first person, she came alive. She was real. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love this kid. She's cool. So we were just about to start, A to Z was just about to start that year. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'm gonna do the A to Z on Lizzie, and every day Lizzie is going to tell a story about her life. She's an 8-year-old kid who lives in Dublin, and she's from a big Irish family, and she's a bit silly, and she gets herself into trouble. But every day, Lizzie's going to tell a story, and people just loved her. The response I got to her was amazing, and at the end of it, then. Some of my family own a local newspaper in Ireland, and had come to me and said, listen, we want a children's story for the newspaper. Would you be interested in writing a children's story for the paper? And I said, well, actually I have a ton of them already written. I said, do you want to have a look at Lizzie and see is she good for the paper? And I sent them half a dozen Lizzie stories, and they came back to me. I mean, this was family, it wasn't like a big national publisher, maybe one day, but they came back to me and said, absolutely, she's perfect, she's exactly what we need. So Lizzie has been weekly in this paper now for 2 years. She's coming up to the end of the 2nd year now. Right. And she just tells a little story every week about school or home or her dog or her friends yeah, so that's Lizzie. Yeah, it's great. I sit down and I think she writes it herself.
That's what I've heard.
I just sit there and I look and go, oh, there we go. There, that's done. Sand. It's a very easy thing to write.
How does the A to Z work? Does it? You go, okay, well, the first of the month, apples, and then you can just write whatever you want, or does it have to have the letter A throughout, like that word?
No. No, it's literally the post has to be about something to do with the letter A. So, I think this year there was something like 1,400 people signed up for it, and the idea is that you keep your posts to 200 or 300 words, and then you go and you read a half a dozen other posts on the list, and then the next day everybody's got a number. So you start with the number after yours, and the idea is you try and read through the month as well and comment. And so I've made a load of connections through it, and blog followers and mutual followers and all. But I mean, the theme, you can have any theme you want. So there's everything from like travel blogging to fiction writing to like erotica, romance, horror, everything. Every genre of fiction and every type of non-fiction blogging. If you Google A to Z challenge, you can go and see the list of who was in it last time. And literally, as long as your post on the 1st of April has a title or a theme, something to do with the letter A, it's good to go. Oh. And B on the 2nd of April, and etc. And they just cut the Sundays out. And that leaves 26 days, so it's A to Z for the whole of April.
So what was the hardest letter to do then?
The year I didn't do Lizzie, I struggled when I got to XYZ. I was doing random fiction stories. And so I cheated, and I didn't do X and Y, W, X, Y, yeah, sorry. Yeah, X, I seriously had to go through the alphabet, yeah. I didn't do X and Y, and on the final day, I wrote a story called The End of the Alphabet Kids, about a couple who had decided they were going to have 26 children, and were going to call them after each letter of the alphabet, and they started with Z, and for some reason, which is in the story, they finished at Y. Or W or something, because they realized it was an unmanageable feat.
You think?
Yeah. So I kind of cheated, and I just, the names of the children began with X, Y, and Z. That's how I dealt with X, Y, and Z.
That's how you dealt with it. Well, that's creative though, and that's the point.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god, I can't do this. I just can't do this anymore.
I wonder how many people just talk about X-rays for 200 words.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, you see, that's some of the stuff is amazing how people get there, because I think things like X, Y, and Z, there's only so many stories that you can, only so many themes that you can do with those letters, but you would think that, and then you look at all these blogs and go, oh yeah, okay then, right? So there's a lot of that goes on. Okay, we'll just go on to the next one then.
It makes you wonder, though.
But it is.
If
it's an interesting thing.
If you committed yourself to the whole alphabet with like a running story, might be a medieval fantasy, and it gets down to that crunch time, and then all of a sudden, the dragon morphed into a zebra.
Yeah.
Right. What?
Boom. Done. Job done.
Edit that later.
Yeah, the fantasy writers, you see, they've got an easy time because dragons can morph into zebras in a fantasy fiction story, and nobody would bat an eyelid. If Lizzie suddenly turned into a zebra, I'd get questions. It's totally unfair. But yeah, so
I don't know. I think you get a bit of a backlash from the purists.
Yeah, I know. There are some Lizzie purists out there, because when I was doing Lizzie for the A to Z, what I did was I wanted to keep people's attention when we were getting to like maybe day 20, day 22. You see the numbers, you see the stats in the blogs drop a bit, because I think people have a bit of fatigue at that stage. So I made Lizzie's mother. The way Lizzie would tell the story, she would tell the reader something that she didn't know herself. She would say something was going on in the house, and to an adult you would know that mommy and daddy were fighting or something was wrong. But Lizzie would be unaware of it. But an adult reader would be aware. So what I did was I made Lizzie's mother sick. I made her ill, and then she went to hospital to have tests, and then in the end I had people email me saying that if you kill Lizzie's mother off, I'll never read anything you write again. And I was going, well, at least I did what I wanted to do. I kept your interest. Yes. I did exactly what I wanted to do. I kept you with me to the end of the thing. So there are a few Lizzie purists out there that are get very antsy if I try and do something different with her.
How'd you respond to that?
I don't know how long she'll last.
Did you say, look, she's not dying, but she's got an STI, but I didn't want to point it out, okay?
No, excuse me, she's a very, very, very faithful Irish mammy.
Right.
No such thing in them days. It's set in this kind of 70s, late 70s, early 80s, so none of that nonsense.
Right. So did we find out why she was going to the hospital? I haven't read
Yeah,
it.
she was ill, but she was okay. Yeah, because the very last story of that particular A to Z set was a conversation that Lizzie has with her dad, and in the story her dad is quite a distant dad, and he's not around a lot, and he works a lot, and so in the story, there's in the final one, which is the Z, and it's the zoo. They talk about they're going on a trip to the zoo, and at one stage Lizzie says, it's really sad that Mammy can't come, isn't it? And Daddy takes her on his knee and says, yeah, it's sad that she can't come. And at that stage I wanted everyone to think that I killed Mammy off. and then he says, no, but maybe she'll be able to come, maybe she'll be well enough to come the next time. Go up and say goodbye to her before we go.
Right.
So suggesting that Mammy is upstairs recuperating in bed. So she's still alive to this day.
Well, that's a relief.
I'd give her a disease that's silly. Like, so you have this big build up and it's like, look, she's got the gout. Like, really? After all that?
After all that.
She's too poor to have gout. She'd more than likely have scurvy, I would think, than gout.
Oh, what a
Gout's
cool
the rich man's disease.
Is it?
Yeah. It's from strong food, port and red meat and stuff.
Oh.
Well, traditionally.
It's from all that good stuff and without any exercising.
Right.
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
Well, we've determined that exercise is bad by Catherine's accident.
Yeah. Cycling is bad for your health. We've already confirmed that.
Very bad for your health.
Yeah.
Look at Lance Armstrong. That was bad for his health. That's why he had to take so many drugs.
Yes, it was in the long run. You are right.
I'm going to get a lot of emails, I think. I'm on fire
I
today.
think you might. I think you're right.
Catherine's influence. I was well behaved the week before.
So tell us how so you've written a book with the long and the short of it. Tell us a little bit about the book and about how you got that published or what you did to publish it.
Yeah, it's a collection of short stories. If we go back to Lizzie, what I was writing, I didn't know how to write fiction, and I just knew I wanted to write more. And so I went to a workshop in a place called Carousel Creates, which is up in the Dublin Mountains. And I went to a workshop there, and they took us through this four-step process where you take a memory and you bring it through this four-step process, and you turn it into a like a fictional memoir or a fictional story based very loosely on your original story. So that was the first thing I did. And so I took memories and started to write them and then rewrite them using this four-stage process.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how to explain it really. The only way I can really tell you is that it feels to me like the first time I went up there, like somebody opened a valve and all of this stuff started pouring out.
Wow.
I literally I wrote all these short stories. I just couldn't stop. I just kept, every time I sat down, a story just poured out of me. It's like they were building up, gathering somewhere behind a wall, And once I started this fictional memoir thing, all of these other stories just poured out. I didn't know what to do with them, so I stuck them on I started a second blog, which was the fiction blog, and I stuck them up there. And some people commented, and people read it, and other writers that I knew were reading it and commenting on it and stuff. And the girl who runs, the lady, should I say, the woman who runs Carousel Creates, she was about to self-publish her first novel in conjunction with, at the time, a brand new company in Ireland called Emu Inc., who provide services for self-publishers. Now, there's probably quite a few of these companies in the States and in Australia, but this is the first of its kind in Ireland, where it is self-publishing, but it's kind of self-publishing plus or assisted self-publishing or whatever way you want to put it.
We have a number of places like that here. Yes.
Yeah, so they don't, they won't just take anything, and they won't just bung it up on Amazon for you for a cost. They will choose which ones they take.
Yes.
And I went to the launch. Yeah. So I went to the launch of my friend's book that she had published, and I think she was one of the first that Emu Inc. had published. I think she was one of the first 2 or 3. And the owner of the company obviously was there, and we had a conversation. And she said, "Would you want to meet for coffee and show me a few of the stories?" Caroline said that. Oh, I know what it was. It wasn't the publishing night. It was it was a reading night up at Carousel Creates. Anybody who'd been there over the last year could come up, have a glass of wine and some nibbles, and if they wanted to read. So I read that night, and I got a really good response to it. And then I had the conversation with Emer from Emu Inc., who said, "Would you like to meet for coffee? I'd love to read some more of the stories." Sure. So I sent her a load of stories, and we met for coffee, and she said, I think you should publish them. I think they should come down off the blog, get them off the internet, and get them into a book. And I was like, really? And she was like, definitely. So then I had to go and write another. I gave her 30. She said yes to maybe 12 of them. And I had to go and write another 20 so that she could say yes to another 12. But at that stage, I was, my goodness, I was writing so much at the time. I could have just, churned out. I mean, I'm not like that now. I wish I was like that. I'm having a bit of a dry spell at the moment. But I was really going through a productive patch. And we came up with 23 stories that we were both happy. We disagreed over a few things, and anything we couldn't come to an agreement on, we left out of the book. And volume 2, we'll argue about them again for volume 2. And so we did the Amazon version and the iBooks version, but I did want to have a print version as well. So we did a print to order deal as well. So I've got them in a couple of small bookshops. I mean, it's, sales numbers haven't been fantastic, but I am immensely proud of the finished product. I can't believe it. I look at it and go, I can't believe I did that.
That's so cool.
I love my stories. I love my characters. There's 1 or 2 of them I think maybe have more to say, and I'm in the middle of trying to prepare a manuscript of volume 2. Which is about half done, which should have been done last year, but however. And so we published it in November 2013, and Yeah. So, and I'm also working on a novel. I've about 60,000 words, beginning, middle, and end that I did in NaNoWriMo a couple of years ago.
Very
That I
cool.
love as well, and that
Yeah,
needs
I'm a
a
fan of that.
lot of work. A lot of work. So I mean, gosh, I just love it. You know, I'm never going to make money out of it, and I'm never, unless something drastic happens to my writing, I'm never going to be famous. But I do love it. Absolutely love it. You know. And,
That's
You
all.
could be famous.
That's the whole point too. Is
yeah.
So
we'll see.
when your book was in, you got it into a couple of bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
Did you walk past and just sort of point at it like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's me?
Yeah. People kept sending me photographs because you see, I mean, I knew the guy who owned the bookshop, and I just went to him and said, "Would you take it?" And he said, "Absolutely." And it got to his. He has a little chart. It's only a small local bookshop, but he has a little chart of the bestsellers of each week, and he puts them 1 to 10. So the week mine went in, it got to number 1 at the end of the week, and he took a picture of it and showed it to me. So that's probably my most favorite picture in the universe. You know, number 1 of some charts. Not the New York Times bestseller, obviously, but still a bestseller in a little tiny bookshop for 1 week.
There you go.
But yeah, it was to see it, and for people, when people bought it and were sending me photographs of, you know, I just got my hands on Anne-Marie's book, and you know, it was very exciting, and it's very hard to get people to review it on Amazon, but I have been pleased with the reviews on Amazon. So
yeah, they seem alright, which is such a shame because I normally like to read out any 1-star reviews, but I'm coming up trumps.
Coming up with nothing, huh?
You should just go and write one. Don't read the book. Just go and write it once. Because I have said to people, listen, just, you know, an honest to God 3-star review is fine. If that's all you want to give it, that's fine. But just please go and give it something, you know, because I know loads of people have read it, but getting people to write, I mean, oh my goodness,
it's
really hard to get people to review it. But
yeah, but see, I don't want to do that because if I did just a 1-star review, it'd be was a guest on our show. Was really, really good. Probably an okay book.
Well, Amazon, I don't know. Like somebody said that they got an email. Oh, they got an email the other day saying, "We have not posted your review of this book because we see that you are connected to the author, and it would damage the integrity of Amazon's review system."
Like. Right.
Damage? How can they damage Amazon's review system? There is no.
I know.
It's broken.
There is no integrity in it. And if
the integrity is a nice touch.
Yeah, I mean, if friends didn't review books for other friends, there'd be no reviews on Amazon except for
If you didn't
Stephen
buy
King.
them from sock puppets, it wouldn't happen either. It's like, holy cow! What do you mean integrity?
Yeah. So, and it's not the first time I've heard that. They seem to be cracking down on. Don't ask me what algorithm they're using to find out who's connected to who on Amazon. It's not like you have friends on Amazon like Facebook or something. That would be horrific. But yeah, so they seem to be cracking down, and so I don't know. Anyway,
maybe
hard to say.
Yeah.
So where can we find you? Where can people find all of your great work?
Well, my writing website is AnneMarieMiles.com. That's ANNMARIEMILES. If the blog looks as if I kind of passed away in a freak accident and never came back to it, but I am going to come back to it. That has a sample of the book on it that you can read. It has the first story from the book, but it also has an audio clip of me reading the first story of the book.
Oh, that's cool.
On it as well. It has some short stories in the blog and some articles about some festivals that I went to the year I published, and for the year afterwards I was able to go to quite a few festivals, and so I have a bit of kind of just sharing some thoughts on festivals and stuff, and it's got other bits and bobs on the website. So that's the main place, but also my blog about spiritual stuff is antiamo.com, AUNTYAMO.com.
Are you on?
Very cool.
You mentioned you did a bit of an audio thing. Is that something that's up on, say, Audible? Or is it just something you recorded on your own?
What did I do? I think I have a Mixcloud account because I also sing as well, which is kind of completely separate to the writing thing. I don't write music or write songs. And I think what happened was it was the International Day of the Story or something, International Short Story Day or something like that. And I contacted the publisher of the book, and I said, what do you think about me recording myself reading the first story and putting it up on Mixcloud? And she was like, no, I don't know, not sure. And I said, well, let me do it and send it to you. And actually, she thought it sounded really well, that I'd read it really well, and I read it the way I wanted to hear it read, you know, that type of thing. So it went up on Mixcloud, and I got quite a good response from it, but I took it down again after the short story day was over. It was only up for 24 hours. And then we thought, well, we have the audio there, why don't we do it? So I'm not sure what they did with the MP3 file, but they've embedded it into the website somehow.
Nice.
So please don't ask me about the technical stuff. They pressed a button and it worked. That's all I can tell you.
Damien does that for me. He presses the button and it works. I really appreciate that.
I'm very impressed by the button presser people because, you're lucky I answered the Skype call, you know. So.
I like the fact that Catherine thinks there's one button. There's a number of buttons.
There's more than one button?
Yes, there is. And
goodness, I'm so impressed.
There's a big red button that's the oh shit button.
That's the special button.
I saw a very funny photo online of someone's mixing console, and they'd stuck a Darth Vader helmet on top of one of the slider controls, and it had Darth Vader written on it.
Darth Vader.
Anyway,
oh my goodness.
we've got a few things that we need to do now. I don't have show notes, Catherine. Have you got them in front of you?
I do.
Awesome. Well, we should probably do like a word of the week or something.
Yes, we should. So the word of the week is solidite.
See, you get me to read them because you know you can't really read them either.
Sodalite.
What?
A sword used for beheading.
Oh, right, because we've all got one of them.
There you go.
Hang on. Where did I put mine? Where is it now? Honey, have you seen one?
Could you imagine seeing those on like a shopping channel? Look at this. This can slice a head straight off, and it fits under your bed.
And the great thing about it, Damien, is that if you buy it, you get the sheath at 10% off. Isn't that an amazing value?
It's not just any sheath. It's made of bison leather, not your standard leather. Yeah, right.
Wow.
I just thought I'd throw that out there.
We need to have a medieval sales channel.
A medieval sales channel. I like that idea, though. You have to make up something like the book that you sent me, that you could do this 6 books that you can read all in one. That was very cool.
Yes, that was cool. I posted that up on Google+, following a chap. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he posts pictures and a little write-up of books that he's found. I think that's his job, historian. And he found a book, that has, you can read it 6 ways. It's got clasps on it, so you can unclip one clasp and fold the cover up, and there'll be a story in there, and then you can close it, spin it round, and do the next one. It was written in 1600 or something. So there you go. There were monks out there with a lot of time on their hands.
There were. They had a lot of time, but they were, ingenious in working with what they had. So that's an interesting piece to that.
I guess you hear about the silent order monks. No wonder they were quiet, trying to work out a 6-sided book. Need to concentrate.
Definitely. Yeah. So I sent you the tortured sentence so you can read the tortured sentence.
Where'd you send it to me?
Skype.
Skype. That thing we do.
That thing we do, yeah.
All right. Let me play the tune.
Okay, play the happy tune.
Next time, don't run the fastest on the right side. Tortured sentences. So that was from Lizzie's doctor, Lizzie's mum's doctor.
Yeah.
She couldn't be with it.
That's what Americans think socialized medicine sounds like.
I don't usually quote him in the stories because he's not good. He's not in a good place.
Yes, but she's a good one. Now, so this is from a blog. Hopefully it's not Anne-Marie's blog, otherwise that'd be very awkward.
It looks familiar. Carry on.
It looks familiar.
I think I
Right.
wrote
No,
this
it's a
one.
comment on a blog, and I just thought you'd be entertained by it.
Is it from your blog or our blog?
No, it's from neither one of ours. It's from a
Good.
completely different blog with this weird ass comment. So I just thought, let's share that.
It says, it's fastidious conversation regarding this paragraph at this place, at this website. I've read all that. So at this time, me also commenting here. It's like I'm just...
So you
Yeah.
think that that's generated by a computer? Because it sounds that way to me.
There's Google Translate for you. I've had a few of them on the blog.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Or-
fabulous.
Or it could be a
I sometimes
monkey.
do a blog comment of the week with those. Yeah. Fastidious. But yeah, if you don't mind me saying, Damien, I don't think you read it in the spirit in which it was written. Aha! It's fastidious conversation regarding this paragraph at this place, at this website. I have read all that so that at this time, me also commenting here.
Mm.
You know, I think there should have been a bit more, you know.
A bit more
Liveliness.
Yoda in there. Me also commenting here.
Yeah, me also commenting.
Yes, well, I
Commenting
don't,
here. Me also.
yes, don't make me start doing voices, otherwise it's going to get very racist very quickly. I
It's gonna be
don't,
awful. So let's not do awful. I agree.
I don't think a computer would be that lively somehow. But anyway,
You never know.
No.
I still think it's a monkey in a suit. They've given him a shot of some sort of serum and he can write really big words, but he's still a gorilla at heart.
It's all those monkeys on typewriters that they claim can make any kind of any kind of novel.
And they're always portrayed as smoking. I don't know why.
Because you got to smoke when you write your novel. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
See, that's my problem. I don't do that.
That's your problem. You're not
That's your
smoking enough, so that's
Why you
why the
have no
novel's not
books?
getting written.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to have to go because
All right. We appreciate you
I
coming
am
on.
up very early in the
Tonight.
morning, so even though it's Saturday, I have to get up early tomorrow. So
Well, thank you
I'm
very
going to
much
fall asleep any minute.
for coming on and, trying not to annoy your husband by him being fast asleep and it's 1 a.m.
Yeah,
for you.
well, he's actually. I'm in the bedroom. He's in the sitting room, waiting patiently for me to stop talking. So, which is
Oh,
usually
God.
he's usually standing around waiting patiently for me to stop talking. So, yeah. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's been great, and I would love to stay up for another hour talking to you, but I really do need to get some Zeds.
We totally understand, and thank you for coming on and being our guest. You were fabulous. Thanks so much.
Thanks a million.
Thank you. All right. So, you can find Anne-Marie at annemariemiles.com. Now, Catherine, what else have we got to do? Prompt?
Prompt.
Right.
So I've got a prompt,
Mm.
and it's to write up a scene that is completely different than your preferred genre. So for Damien, you would write a love scene.
Oh.
For me, I'd have to write up a serious spy shootout.
Mm.
If you are all about action, then write up something about inner dialogue. If you're all about romance, write up that fantasy war. Shake yourself up.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do a love scene. Hi, do you take credit card? Oh, not that type of love scene.
No, that kind of, not that practical kind of love scene, dude.
No. It's interesting. As an insight to sort of, and you've been married a long time as well. You don't need to try and impress anyone. Sharon rang me. I had my work experience boy in the car, and she answered the phone. She goes, "How are you?" I said, "Not too bad. I've got a very important question to ask you." So she's on the phone. She said, "What?" I said, "If you had 3 breasts, would you have to have a custom-made bra?" Right? I was mucking. She's like, "You're an idiot." So Nathan's looking next to me with wide eyes, going, "How can you say that? To your wife?" I'm like, "Well, because I can." He was shocked. So don't just try and impress
That's the
girls.
advantage of being married, is you can ask those really weird ass questions, and oftentimes we will answer, and that's even worse.
I know. So I just wanted to know if you could go into bras and things like a shop and say, "Oh, God, you do free fitting. We've got 3 of them. Away you go."
All I know is that if I'm feeling particularly flummoxed, I have Andrew help me with taking off the bra, putting the bra on, because I only have one hand. You cannot do a bra with one hand.
You have to go back to the 60s. Just go, "Oh, I'm burning these until my hand's healed."
No.
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 Well, risk
Not going to
aside,
happen.
Risk aside, how was the holiday though? Did you get to see some
The
cool
holiday
things?
was wonderful. France is beautiful, and the people were lovely, and the food is fabulous. The wine, of course, is marvelous. We had a perfect time, except for the part where I was nursing a wrist the entire time. But other than that, it was awesome.
Did you eat any strange foods?
No. We did a couple of rounds of classic French food. So I was able to have escargot one night, and I had frog legs. But for the most part, I was eating like really fresh vegetables, beautifully done meats. We did mussels when we were in Honfleur, which is up in the Normandy area. It's a coastal kind of a touristy town. Their specialty is a bowl of mussels and pommes frites, and it was fabulous. So we sat in the sun in an outdoor cafe, and I ate the mussels and ate the French fries, and it was great. So we ate as locally as we could, and we're not sorry. It was just stunning, wonderful food.
Right. Well, I just had a bag of Doritos yesterday for lunch.
I can understand that. Doritos are addictive.
Anyway, I didn't have...
Everybody knows that. They do. There's something in Doritos that makes them incredibly addictive.
I wonder what oyster-flavored Doritos would be like.
Well, I don't know. Probably not. I'm not a big seller in the States, but maybe in other countries. I don't think we're big into the oyster flavors. I like oysters, but I'm unusual.
Yeah, that'd be wrong. If anyone does have some... No, actually, we're not going to go down that road of having food sent to me. We're not going to do that. I'm sorry.
No. And I do have a lovely gift for you. I just have to wait till I have two hands so I can wrap it up.
It's not genitals, is it?
No.
Oh, right.
Sorry.
My...
But when you get it, we will expect reviews.
If there's any new listeners listening, they'll be like, what? What's he referring to? You don't want to know. Actually, you could probably find it a couple of shows, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Gifts. Yes, I like gifts. I like weird gifts if you go to a strange place. And that they always seem to divulge into just naughty things.
Well, because that's the only kind of weird stuff that's available, and then I go to countries where they are so accommodating that way.
I need to get out more.
You do.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that'll do it now. Next week, who have we got on?
Next week we have the wonderful, fabulous Dean Mayer, who is an author and a printer.
Yes, he's here in Adelaide, actually.
Yes, he's local, and I just talked with him, and so he is ready to have a Saturday morning call.
Cool. Well, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, well.
We can talk to him about... Actually, that's the reason why I wanted him on. We do get a lot of guests from the States, obviously, and Europe occasionally, but I thought, if we can have someone from Australia and talk about publishing and how that is different or the same to the rest of the world, I think that'd be interesting. And yeah, stay tuned.
I agree.
For that. All right, so that'll do it. It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. Thank you for holding down the fort while I was gone. I appreciate that.
That's all right. It was fun. Even though, we had Kiara Ballantyne on, and we talked about dragons, and then she said my book doesn't have any dragons. Oh, never mind.
After all that conversation about dragons, and she had no dragons.
Yeah. So she should change that. All right.
She should get dragons. What is up with that?
Dragons rock. All right. Until next week. We'll see you.
Until next week.
Your book starts here on the Newbie Writers Podcast.